You heard our discussion earlier this evening, and you know the others said what they said about sex and whether they thought it was a big deal or not. You're three fresh people, so I'm going to start with that question. What do you think about sex, Tino? Is it a big deal to you? Is it a walk in the park? What is it, really?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a big deal.
Okay, you think it's a big deal. Why do you think it's a big deal? What is big about it? Other than penis size.
What can I say? I think it's very important, to be honest, because I have a son who's 12 years old who goes to Ellerslie, right? And up to yesterday evening, when I went for him from school, he's in first form, and these like third formers said to him, "Tamani, see you later." And I was like, okay then. So I was saying to Manny, "Do you know these girls?" Like, yeah, they told me today that I'm sexy. Wow. So starting about Monday or this way, I got to sit down and talk to him about.
And he's 12, Tino. Tino, you should have spoken
Yeah, I
before.
know, right? But to be honest, you know, I hardly be here.
Right.
Even though we got a very good relationship, that's why I honestly believe that it's a serious topic, because you know he's a kid, and you know, and our youth need to be channeled in the right direction. So yes, it is a big deal.
Yeah, definitely it is a big deal in many different ways. And I think what we have to always remember is that at the end of the day, as human beings, we're sexual beings as well. So sex is a part of who we are. So therefore, it has to be something that we have to talk about, that we have to think about, that we have to explore. But we have to do it in ways that are relevant to each and every individual situations, and that we put it into perspective, because I think it's been taken out of perspective.
Sex is a big deal. Anyone who doesn't see sex as a big deal is probably doing it the wrong way, as far as I'm concerned. And it depends on what you term as the wrong way. But whoever your partner is, for me, having sex with that person is never the same the following time and the next time. You know, it's good to experiment. And for me, when there's so much excitement, you can call it pleasure, fulfillment, and all those words that you could think of that would, should I say, blow your mind at some point, it gotta be a big deal.
When do you think is the right time to tell a child about sex, and how much information should we give? Not just in terms of the logistics of the sex act, but helping that child to feel comfortable with their sexuality.
When it comes to educating persons about sex and sexuality, you have to bear in mind what level of development that individual is at. There's some children who, from as early as 7, 8, they are very mature and they're starting to be curious about certain things, and you need to start to engage them in discussion even from then. But culturally in Barbados, and I think it's more in terms of a Caribbean thing, our culture is one that kind of makes sex very taboo. So no one really sits and talks to anybody about it. Many of us, as Corey said and the first panel said, many of us would have learned about sex either by talking to your friends, and your friends ain't no wiser than you, so you know, you're not really helping each other, or by whatever books you could find, or even by what you see on television, in movies, etc. But I think we need to be comfortable enough to sit with our preteens, our adolescents, because you're talking about from the time they hit puberty, man, the sex drive is awakened and it's like, whoa, you know? We can't wait until they get into their late teens, early 20s, then to try.
I find that in society, when a girl is exposed to sex by an older guy, you know, it tends to be frowned upon. You know, I've been in education for several years, so I know this to be so. I know there are many girls that may get involved with an older man and it tends to be frowned upon. But I know that in our society, when it's reversed and a guy is exposed to sex by an older woman, it tends to be less frowned upon. Now, guys, I'm going to get really personal here. What's your experience with this in terms of older women teaching you about sex and about your sexuality? You know, do men really see this as abusive? Do men think about this as sexual abuse? This woman unfairing me? Or they think, thank God?
All right, if I can go a step back. There's always the issue whenever females and as you said, the older man, you might hear now she wild, she this. You might hear now that the guy take advantage of this young female, right? With the guys now, most guys, not me, most guys might see it as something to brag about, you know? They are, how should I put it? They are man enough. Or they feel they're more man than they really are at that moment in time to be able to sleep with an older woman. For example, an 18-year-old sleeping with a 32-year-old woman, that sort of thing.
You've gone old. What about 12-year-olds sleeping with a 21-year-old, 25-year-old woman?
Somebody can get shot if I had to deal with it. Because, I don't know if because I have a daughter, and I have sons also, but for years now, I grew up with all girls. I grew up in a house with all sisters. And I view ladies in the most respectable way you could ever think of it. I don't think that, thank you, I don't think it's right for any old man, or any man for that matter, to be looking at some 12-year-old or 11-year-old. And Lord help the man that looking at my daughter, because, well, she ain't no more 12-year-old. She's going to be 18 this year, but still, Lord help that man, right? Because, you know, you always think, people say, okay, you wanna think that way because you probably were that way as a youngster growing up. But I never had an interest in younger girls. I always had an interest in the older woman from a teenager. I was 17, I was interested in a 22-year-old girl. I would not be looking at my 17-year-old friend or 16-year-old friend.
It's a lot easier or accepted for, like, to be quite honest, this is something I've experienced. When I was 17, I was seeing a woman I was 29.
Thank you for your kindness.
And my boys, I was the man.
Yeah.
My boys.
You were the champ.
Yeah, I was the champ. You know, it was a good experience. But obviously, if a girl is 16, 17 and seeing a man is 20 or 29, I think that's a little overboard. I think that's that's too mature for her. Okay. You know, I wouldn't really like me, if I had a daughter that was 17 and she was liking a guy that's 26 or 27, I would try to talk to her and tell her, listen, I think that guy is a little too mature for you or too experienced for you. I think you should just, because honestly, we look at women as sacred. You know, we as guys, we are expendable. When a boat going down, women and children, then the boy care about man. We could die, they care about me.
I'm interested in what I've been hearing in terms of, like, you know, the double standards as it relates to, like,
yes.
I don't understand. Why is it that it's okay for a younger male to be with an older woman, but not the other way around? I mean, I heard someone mention something about, you know, maturity and whatever, but when it comes to sex and sexuality and issues surrounding...
And in terms of their developmental stages, they're really all the same, whether male or female.
When you put all those different things together, maturity isn't about age. It's about your intellect, your outlook, how you understand or comprehend things. And then if we even bring it down to the physical developmental process, women mature faster than guys. So a woman could be with an older man who is more on her level intellectually. Yeah? So, I mean, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to how we've been socialized.
It's a social double standard.
Yeah, how we've been socialized to interact with each other, what has been perceived as acceptable, not acceptable. But I think you have to merit relationships on the individuals that are involved and the level of maturity that they bring to that relationship.